Back to the Michael Baisden Show. As promised, President Barack Obama is going to join us in a second. Call everybody you know. Tell them the President of the United States is on the Michael Baisden Show. Election is 27 days away, George Wilborn.
It's right around the corner.
November 2nd, and there's going to be a lot of early voting around the country. And I don't care what the polls say. We are enthusiastic and fired up and ready to go. Glad to have him back on the show again. Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, President Barack Obama. How you doing, Mr. President?
How are you, sir?
Wonderful. Good to have you back on the show. How you been?
I've been great. It's good to talk to you.
Let me just get this out of the way. There's no enthusiasm gap on this show. I can tell you that right now, Mr. President. We're fired up, ready to go.
Y'all are always fired up. And, listen, Michael, before we get started, I wanted to congratulate you on the Million Mentors plan that you've got.
Thank you, sir.
That is so important. Obviously, we've been doing a lot on education, but ultimately, no matter how good the teacher is, no matter how good the school is, we've got to, as a community, support high standards, excellence, giving kids a vision for the future. And the First Lady has set up a mentorship program here at the White House that's doing great work and giving young people around the D.C. area access to folks like Valerie Jarrett, other people who can tell them here's what they did to take that path to success, and it just opens people's eyes up. So
Thank you.
I just want to say I'm proud of you for doing that, and I want to encourage everybody who's listening to participate.
Thank you very much for that. It meant a lot, and it does make a difference. Let's get to the biggest issue, obviously, is jobs right now, Mr. President. A lot of folks just don't understand how big a job you had coming in. Can you explain that to them in clear language so they understand where we were and where we are now?
Well, here are a couple of statistics for people to understand. Number one, during the 8 years in which the Republicans were in control, from 2001 to 2009, we had the most sluggish job growth since World War II. So this is a problem that's been going on for the last decade. But the financial crisis obviously made things much worse. We lost 4 million jobs in the 6 months before I took office. Then we lost 750,000 jobs the month I took office, 600,000 the month after that, and 600,000 the month after that. The bottom line is we ended up losing 8 million jobs, and most of those jobs were lost before any of my economic plans were put into place. Now, what we've been able to do is to stabilize the economy. So we've been growing jobs. We've seen 8 months of consecutive private sector job growth. We have seen improvements in terms of the business climate and investment. But we still have a long way to go to dig ourselves out of that hole that was created by the previous administration and the previous Congress's policies.
We did save jobs with the stimulus. There's no question about that. Why don't people understand that we saved a lot of jobs from being lost?
Well, it is indisputed. John McCain's own economist during the campaign has said that we saved up to 3 million jobs, and that if we hadn't taken those steps, we might have even lost more than that. So we could be at 12 or 13% unemployment. But having said all that, obviously the unemployment rate is still too high. That's why some of the steps that we've talked about, for example, the bill that I signed for small businesses to be able to get financing so they can afford to hire new workers, giving them a tax break so that if they hire an unemployed worker, they don't have to pay as high a tax on it. All those steps that we're taking right now are critical, and we're also then, at the same time, putting in place strategies that lay a foundation, a new foundation for long-term economic growth. So just to give you an example.
You've got a lot of other things done, though. The health care reform, which nobody seems to talk about. Wall Street, Lilly Ledbetter. I mean, credit card reform. Nobody's talking about these things, and they're very important things that needed to happen.
Well, let's take the example of education. We know that long-term we're going to have to make sure that all these young people have the skills to get the jobs of the future. So what was happening before we took office was that the student loan program was being run through banks, and they were skimming tens of billions of dollars in profits, even though they took no risks because the federal government was guaranteeing these loans. So what we said was, let's loan this money directly to students. We'll cut out the middleman.
Sure.
Now we've got millions of young people out there who are getting loans that weren't getting it before, or bigger loans, or more Pell Grants. And so we've made college much more affordable to young people. But the truth of the matter is a lot of the changes we're making are ones that have have to take some time to take root, and we're still, experiencing the hangover from the misguided policies that existed under the last administration. I understand folks being impatient about it, but the question is going to be, are we going to go forward, or are we going to go back to the same policies that got us into this mess in the first place? That's why this election is so important.
So we have a lot. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, Mr. President, this is George Wilborn, Michael's partner. Obviously, we as Americans, some of us anyway, have short-term memory when it comes to how horrible a situation this country was in before you took office.
Right.
But if it's the number one thing that you want us to know, what can we do to make sure and assure that we have you for a second term? What is it that we need to do?
Well, look, the number one thing is vote in this election, because here's the challenge we've got. The Republicans, they are fired up. They're mobilized. They see an opportunity to take back the House, maybe take back the Senate. And if they're successful in doing that, they've already said they're going to go back to the same policies that were in place during the Bush administration. And that means that we are going to have just hand-to-hand combat up here on Capitol Hill. We're not going to be able to keep on making progress. I'll give you one example. They are talking about tax cuts, not for the middle class, which we agree with and we've already agreed to. They're talking about tax cuts for millionaires and billionaires, would give on average a $100,000 check to folks making $1 million or more. It would cost us $700 billion that we'd have to borrow because we don't have it. And we could be using that same money to provide more student loans to young people, to create jobs for folks who are looking for work right now. There are just different priorities that they've got. I've got to make sure that we've got a strong Congress behind me as we keep on moving forward. And that means everybody who's listening to your show, everybody in the barbershops and the beauty shops and at work, everybody's got to understand this is a huge election.
Yes,
and
it is.
Even though I'm not on the ballot, people have to turn out. If we turn out in strong numbers, then we will do fine. If we do not, if we are depressed and decide, well, Barack's not running right now, so I'm just going to stay home, then I'm going to have my hands full up here on Capitol Hill.
How do you feel about the young people? I mean, obviously, I think the African-American vote will be there. What do you think about young people? They're very important to this election.
Well, part of what happened in 2008, the reason we won is because young people, African-Americans, Latinos, people who traditionally don't vote in high numbers, voted in record numbers. We've got to have that same kind of turnout in this election. And the thing that I try to emphasize to people is, change doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, we're very
It doesn't happen 1 year. It doesn't happen in 2 years.
Right.
But you stated that, Mr. President.
From the
all
beginning,
due respect, you gave that message several times. We got it.
I always said that. And if you think about it, let's take the example of civil rights. I mean, first we got the civil rights. First we got Brown versus Board of Education. And it took 8-10 years before it was actually implemented in a serious way. Then you had the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but there was still discrimination on the job. Mm-hmm. Then, you had the Voting Rights Act passed. Each of these things, step by step, created more freedom, more opportunity, more people being able to get a fair shake. And so as a consequence, over the course of 40 years, we've made a lot of progress. But if we think that we can just take, we vote one time, and then we have a nice party at Obama's inauguration, and then we can kind of sit back and suddenly everything's going to change. That's just not how it works. Right. And the other side understands this. Here's one of the things that's happening around the country. You've got big special interests, the banks, the insurance companies, all the folks we've been fighting. They are pouring millions.
Oh, my God, is money coming in by the tons.
It's not disclosed. And they are just running negative ads against Democratic candidates all across the country. So when I talk to young people, I say, they're trying to hijack democracy from you right now. They are trying to roll back the clock because we took on the special interests. They don't like it. They are spending millions of dollars. The only way to counteract that is millions of voices. That's right. Being heard at the polls.
Yeah, well, you talked about it during your State of the Union. You made the comment, and you got the reaction from the justice about how there may be money coming in due to that law that doesn't require them to disclose where the money's coming in from. And here it is. And, I mean, it is really coming in 7-1. In some cases, we're being outspent 10-1 in some of these campaigns.
Absolutely. And so the only way to counteract that is making sure that we are voting in strong numbers. So, I'm holding rallies around the country. We're going to have one in Philly. I want everybody to focus on, the next 4 weeks, talking to your friends, talking to your neighbors. I personally need you guys to make sure that you're pumping up the fact that this election really matters. It matters.
Oh, we're all over it. We're all over, Mr. President. Yeah.
It matters in terms of our education agenda. It matters in terms of our jobs agenda. It matters in terms of us making sure Wall Street doesn't try to roll back the rules we just put in place to prevent taxpayer-paid bailouts. All that stuff's at risk if we don't stay really focused over the next 4 weeks.
Well, we're going to make sure that we get through this midterm and have you have an effective following 2 years and then another 4 years after that to fix this mess that took us so long to get into.
It's going to get fixed, guys.
And we'll see you in Las Vegas, too. Yeah. We'll be there for the rally in Las Vegas.
Sounds great, Mike.
Take care. President Barack Obama, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Good luck.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Coming back, taking more of your calls on President Barack Obama's interview on the Michael Baisden Show. This is my song dedicated to the President and the First Lady. Ain't no stopping us. We are fired up and ready to go.